Hey, fourth graders.
Welcome back to TV Classroom.
Here we are. Before we tell you what we're doing today, let's check in with our zones.
Okay.
How are you feeling today? What's your body doing? What's your brain doing? What are your emotions doing? Miss Oslin, how are you doing today?
I'm happy, I'm calm, I'm good to go. I'm also a little hungry. It's lunchtime for me, even though it's kind of early for lunch, but I don't know, my body's telling me I need to eat.
Well,
so
then
we'll do that after this.
That's right.
Yep. How are you doing?
You know, all day I've been in the yellow-blue zone, but I'm starting to get a little bit in the green zone.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Makes me happy too. My brain is a little more focused.
Oh,
so
good.
I'd say I'm in the blue-green zone.
Isn't that interesting how even if you start out the day in the blue and the yellow zone, if you just get started.
And sometimes that's the hardest part. Like if you have an assignment you really want to do, but you're just like, I don't want to do it, but I know I need to. But then once you get started, you get it done.
It was like me painting my dining room. I did not want to get started, but once I did,
it was fun.
It was great. Mr. Kevin, how are you?
Turn on the microphone. So check 1 2 1 2. So my brain is definitely in the green zone, but I do have a backache today, teachers. I think we're all the wounded warriors here.
We are.
Mrs. Wally with your arm and shoulder, and Mrs. Oslin with your pinky toe.
My toe.
And then my back is a little sore. So yeah.
No.
We'll just be sore
green
together.
zone otherwise.
Oh, that's
Great.
good. Okay.
Great. All right.
We'll have to be gentle with you, Mr. Kevin, and not ask you to do too much lifting today.
Thank you.
Miss Oslin, where are we going?
We're going to go back and visit Miss Julia at the Foss Waterway Seaport again.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
She has so much information about how animals use sound in the Salish Sea.
Yes, and it's going to align perfectly with the input chart that we did last time.
But that we don't want to tell them too much.
No, we don't.
So I think that's just be thinking about what you learned last time.
Yes.
Let's see if you can learn some more today.
Yes, and you're going to think about our essential question, which is how do animals in the Salish Sea use sound to survive? And you're going to take what you wrote or jotted down or drew during our last session, take your previous learning, add in some new learning that we're going to get from Miss Julia, and then you're going to be asked to write a paragraph about how animals in the Salish Sea use sound to survive.
I think the fourth graders can do 3 paragraphs.
I was going to do this. I'm like, fourth graders will definitely know the difference. 3 paragraphs.
You can do it. We've given you so much information. We've gone on so many field trips. We've talked about sound. You can talk about your knowledge of sound waves and how they work. You're going to learn so much from Miss Julia at the Foss Waterway Seaport. You can do 3 paragraphs. I believe in you.
And when you do that, you can take your writing and go on to Flipgrid. And you could read your writing. We would be amazed to hear that from you. You could also get creative and show us what you know in a different way. What are you thinking they could do?
They could act it out in a skit.
That would be so fun. You could write a poem.
You could create art.
You could sing a song or a rap. Oh, I just thought of a new one.
What?
You could take your informational text and use it to write a fictional text. Telling a story about animals in the Salish Sea.
That would be amazing. And make like a narrative nonfiction text.
That would be awesome.
So there's so many ideas.
Lots of different ways for you to show us what you know.
Okay, so next time you see us, we will be at the Salish Sea with Miss Julia at Foss Waterway Seaport. But it is on the Salish Sea.
It is on the Salish Sea. Yeah.
All right, friends, we'll see you there.
Bye.
Hi, Tacoma. Welcome back. Just as promised, Mrs. Wally and I are back at the Foss Waterway Seaport with Miss Julia and Miss Kayla.
We are so excited.
Last time we were here, there was so much to see and do. We couldn't possibly have done it all. So they've been gracious enough to have us back to teach us more about what's happening in our Salish Sea.
And today we're focusing on sound. So excited. Mr. Kevin.
All right,
so we are going to be talking about sound and about how whales use something called echolocation. So what do you know about echolocation?
Oh, friends, what do we know about echolocation? What do you know?
That's right. We know that echolocation is when we put noise out there and it bounces off of something and comes back to us.
Right. Absolutely. So some animals, like whales, use echolocation to actually help them see where they're going. And the reason that they're able to do that has to do with how sound works. So we have a few experiments here that I'm going to use to show you, prove to you that sound travels in waves. All right? So, did you know that? We talked about that?
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
We have done some experiments on a speaker
Mhm.
where we have made salt
Oh, yeah.
move.
I have the same one here.
And well, this looks different
That was
though.
different than what we did.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's important as scientists to experiment and do things more than once
That's
in
true.
different ways.
and in different ways.
That is true. All right, so let's get started with some of these experiments to learn about how sound travels in waves. So if you want to come in to this.
I'm just gonna
Oh,
get
however
right
you
on
want to
in
do
here.
it.
Yeah. whatever.
So, okay, so. Oh, actually, so let's start with this. Have you guys already done like put on your throat?
Yes,
You've
we
already
did
done
that.
that. Okay, we'll
Yep,
skip
we did
that. Well, we'll do this quickly then. Just, okay, so what's, all right, so who gets to pick their favorite song? Kevin? Mr. Medford? Or
We call Mr. Kevin.
Mr. Kevin? What's your favorite song?
Okay, let's see. Steely Dan, reeling in the years.
Okay. Reeling in
Classic for all the kids.
the years.
Oh, the little ones love it. don't
Yeah.
They love it, right? Okay, so. All right, so if you want to zoom in right here on this, Mr. Kevin, this is something that students, you can easily do at home. All this is some saran wrap on top of a jar, and we used Kayla's hairband to secure it. Thanks, Kayla. High budget operation here. And then what I did is I put some pepper. It's just regular pepper on the top of the saran wrap. Now, if I kind of yell at it, you can see it's going to move around. So let's think about this. I have sound coming out of my mouth, and I know that you guys have learned about this a little bit already, right? But how does it get to your ears? At home, do you guys remember? How does the sound get from my mouth to your ears?
With a wave.
Right, it
Through
goes
the
in
air.
waves. Okay,
Vibrations through the air that create
right, and remember you
waves.
can feel those vibrations if you put your hand on your neck while you're talking. Okay, so I'm gonna yell at this pepper. And it's gonna be so sensitive, it's gonna be able to feel the vibrations caused by the sound waves coming from my mouth. Okay, let's try it. Hello! Hello, Pepper! Oh, hello! Ooh, I scared it. I scared it.
That's way better than the one I did.
Yeah, okay, so that's fine. But some students might be skeptical. They might say, well, that's just the air coming out of your mouth.
We have a mask on.
Even though I have my mask on. So, I'm going to prove it to you another way. Ready? Hold on.
They're dancing.
It's dancing pepper!
There's no air coming out of your phone.
Definitely not.
They're having a party.
My phone cannot speak. So I promise you there's no air coming out of my phone. The pepper is actually being moved by the sound waves. It is so cool. Now, just in case you still don't believe me, I have more experiments to show you. Okay. Does anybody know what this is?
We haven't seen that yet.
I haven't seen this yet. Guesses?
Well, you know what? It looks like a fork.
With only 2 prongs.
You're right. It's a tuning fork, right? So if you have a piano at home, maybe you've seen a piano tuner come, and this is specially designed so that when you hit it on something, this one sounds a perfect C, which you probably, well, hold on. There we go. Maybe you can hear that very
Yeah.
faintly, okay? So we're all going to listen to it very faintly. So here's what the sound sounds like traveling through air. All right? You can hear it like a little bit, but not very well, right? Molecules of air are really far apart. So it takes the sound waves, it's just not as efficient. It takes them longer.
They're socially distant.
Yeah, right. So, but whales don't live in air, do they?
No, they live in water.
Live in water. And whales, sound travels through water really, really well. And we'll show you that in a minute because the molecules of water are closer together than the molecules of air, which I'm sure you already knew. But just in case you didn't, facts, okay? So whales are so weird. So our ears are complicated. We hear through air, right? Whales actually use bones to amplify sound waves to be able to hear really, really well. So what I'm going to do is experiment on your teachers and show them how much better you can hear this tuning fork through bone than you can through the air. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So we've all heard it, right? You hear it? Hear that sound very faintly? Okay, Mr. Kevin. Kayla. Okay, so now what I want you to do is you're going to take your finger, put it in your ear, and you're going to need to expose your elbow for me. Okay? So what's going to happen is, I don't know why I'm doing it. What did it sound like?
It sounded like a buzz.
It sounded really loud, right? You could hear those vibrations traveling up your arm. You can't wait.
I'm excited.
You should do Kaylin. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Whoa!
It's shocking, isn't it?
That is so cool.
Kayla screamed when I first did it to her yesterday. You ready? Here we go. You want to try, don't you?
I'll try later on.
Okay, yeah. So that's how whales can hear, right? So sound travels differently.
Why do they can hear so well under there?
You get it now,
Yeah.
right? Kids, if you come in, you just tell us you want the tuning fork thing. Well,
You know, my mom was a swimmer for a really long time, and she had these special earphones that she couldn't really hear outside the water, but she could hear when she went into the water. It was like they were like against her ear bone, like her bones.
absolutely.
But she could only hear when she was submerged underwater. So
That
it
is
must
so
use
cool.
the same kind of
Same kind of thing.
thing
yeah.
that whales use.
All right, so let me show you a little about the molecules. Okay, so I want the three of you to line up right here. You can, from this
I'll be
angle,
behind
will
you,
be
okay.
better, yeah. You can all face this way, okay? And now stick your arms out in front of you, okay? So you're pretty far apart, all right? This represents molecules in air. Right, do a wave, yeah. So there's one air, wait, don't do the wave yet, hold on. I have to start it. So there's no sound yet, right? So the air molecules are really far apart, okay? So I'm gonna start the sound. Whoa, right? It takes, the wave takes a long time to get through because the molecules are far apart. Okay, now I want you guys to scoot together like you're in water or in bone. Closer, closer, yeah, really close, okay? So now I'm gonna be a big sound. Whoop, right?
So fast.
Yeah, the sound can travel much faster because the molecules are gonna bump into each other a lot faster, all
You
right?
could totally try that at home
yeah,
Safely.
safely.
with
Okay.
your parents'
So
permission.
here's one more cool thing with this tuning fork, another experiment we can do.
You have this tub of water, and
I
I'm
do.
wondering if we're going to use that.
We're totally gonna use it.
Yes.
So whales live in water, right? And I've told you that waves travels in sound, that sound travels in waves. And we've talked about how those waves, we kind of feel them as vibrations.
Yes.
But
Waves also travel in sounds, like the Puget Sound.
that's
Waves
correct.
travel in the-
Ha! Well, you know, that's
Nice,
actually what we're
Mr.
going to see
Kevin.
right now. So if you want to bring your camera in real close,
Yeah.
we are going to see. So this tuning fork sends out such strong sound vibrations, we can actually see them in the water as physical waves. Told you, sound travels in waves, and I'm going to prove it to you. Are you ready?
Yep.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. Positive. Okay.
Do it again.
Again? Okay, here we go. Ready?
Do it again.
It's cool, right?
That's wild.
The power of the tuning fork. You can buy these online for real cheap if you want to scare your friends.
Make your fingers buzz.
One of the interesting things about being in a museum is we have a lot of old stuff. We got boats, we got bones. You want it, you name it. So, does anybody know what this is? What type of bone is this?
Well,
It's a big one.
I know what it is because in my back, I've had pictures taken of my back.
Ah, so it's something in your back.
Mhm.
Hopefully at home, we're all making very educated guesses.
Yes. What do you think it is, friends? What are you noticing? What do you see? What are we learning about today?
I think it comes from a whale.
You're right about that. Does it look, what parts of the whale do we know?
Mrs. Wally said she's seen them in her back, so I wonder if it's from a whale's back.
You're right. And a whale would have a lot of these. That's kind of a
Part of the spine.
Yep, part of a spine. So what are you have them too, actually. Everybody has them. All of these vertebrates.
Vertebrates.
As opposed to an invertebrate
Right.
that we learned about last time. So the definition of a vertebrate is that it has one of these.
It's called a backbone
Right, a vertebra.
or a vertebra.
Right?
It's part
So
of the
one
backbone.
piece of the backbone is a vertebra. And what's cool about this is because it's so big is you can see there's kind of a plate right here. You see that? There's a line like this.
Yeah.
So this is actually a growth plate on this bone.
Wow.
And I wanted to show you this because you'll notice when we look at our yearling humpback, which is much younger, the growth plates hadn't fused yet to the vertebra. And so when they reassembled the whale, they had to figure out which growth plates went onto each vertebra. And it was a big part of the assembly process. But this one is fused because it's from an older whale. And humans have growth plates as well in different bones of their body. That's sometimes if you go to the doctor and they give you an x-ray, they can tell you, whether or not you're done growing by looking at your growth plates. So you can learn a lot about things from bones. So this is a whale vertebra, much bigger than ours.
Yes.
All right, what about this one?
Whoa.
Well, could be a rib bone.
You're right. It is a rib bone. First guess.
I
She
was
got it.
guessing and
I was
thought,
about to
well,
try to attach it to my rib cage. Yeah,
it
I
could be
am not a whale.
part of the jaw. It could be
But this is part of a rib bone, a very, very large rib bone. Pretty
Mrs.
cool.
Wally, if you didn't get the answer right, I was going to rib you about it.
Mr. Kevin.
So the whale's rib cage is really similar to our own. So ribs protect our heart and lungs, protects our organs, right? Yeah, you can feel them. So the flat end is where the rib attaches to the spine. I'm not a I don't somewhere like that.
Somewhere like that.
Somewhere in there.
You're close.
Somewhere could be the other way. Yeah, there's some other things in there. And we're gonna see a full rib cage when we go over to our big whale skeleton
We
in a
didn't
minute.
tell them about the big whale
Oh,
skeleton.
you didn't tell them?
We did
We
not.
waited for it to be a surprise.
Ah,
Friends, you get to go up inside a whale skeleton today.
Skeleton coming, and we'll talk about this when we're up there. But you can if you want to take some close-up pictures of that. We're gonna learn
This
about that in a
is-
minute.
We were talking about this last
Yeah?
episode.
Who knows what it is?
I wonder if they know what it is. We talked about it. We said you were going to see it.
We talked about how it's made of keratin, like your fingernails.
Oh, that reminds me. Keep guessing. You'll have to wait till you get up in the whale.
Oh, what do you have?
Ooh. Okay. This is the opposite of that. Think about our input chart we did and the types of whales we talked about. What could those be?
Are you ready for me to tell you?
I'm letting them think.
Oh, okay.
What do you think, friends?
Do you think they might look like teeth?
So if one of them is a tooth and we're thinking about our input chart, oh, the other part of that was a baleen whale. I bet that's baleen.
You're right. So there are we have teeth, right?
Yes.
Looks good, huh? Yeah. So you've got your toothed whales.
Yep.
What's an example of a toothed whale that I know that you're absolutely studying?
They know one.
They know one. It's the orca.
Orca. Orca is a toothed whale, right? And then you've got your other feeding strategy, which is baleen. All right? Yes, absolutely. It's made from keratin, just like your fingernails. And it is a really, really cool feeding strategy. And I'm going to show you how it looks on the whale, and we can explain it a little bit better in just a minute.
It looks like a filter.
It does look like a filter.
Yeah.
definitely been known to put a spaghetti strainer on my head when explaining it. All right, so let's head on over to our main attraction, huh?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I have a surprise in this box.
Ooh.
Boxing Day 2015, which is the day after Christmas. Foss Waterway Seaport gets a call that there's been a whale stranding over by Gig Harbor of the specific whale. And so a lot of groups came together to go out and see what had happened to this whale. And this is a picture of it. And again, I'll send you guys the photo. This is from the Cascadia Research Collective. We also had the West Coast Marine Mammal Stranding Network involved, of which we are a part, and a lot of other groups. So they go out and look at this whale, and we end up getting the permits to articulate and display the skeleton for later, which you're going to see in a minute. So the whale gets buried until 2016. They bury it not at the beach and somewhere else in order to get rid of all of the parts that are not part of the skeleton, right? The blubber, everything else. And there was a necropsy performed. No cause of death was determined. The whale was a little bit skinny, but this is just a yearling humpback, which means it's only about a year old, female, and measured around 20 feet long, which is about half the size of a full-grown adult female, which can get up to be about 50 feet. So it's very sad, but when things like this happen, we try to make the best of them by using them to create learning opportunities for other people. And the good news, the reason why this whale was in Gig Harbor is because of the humpback comeback. Humpback whales are now protected by the Endangered Species Act. But before that, they used to be quite heavily hunted, right?
Right.
So as the hunting has stopped, whales have been coming back. So much so that now you can even see them in Puget Sound. Humpback whales are a migratory species, so it's not year-round. You guys, I'm sure, can talk more about that. But no one's really sure why they're coming so far into Puget Sound, but it's likely it's because we have such wonderful, rich marine life here for them to eat with their baleen, which we'll talk about more in a minute. Okay, so that's the background on our whale. So she gets buried, she gets dug up, they clean the bones in our boat shop. And I have pictures of this, so I'll just run through it and then you can play the pictures. So they bring all the bones right here to the seaport, clean them, they were very, very dirty, and start trying to organize them, figuring out what goes where. It was actually students from Stadium High School that did all this in kind of an after-school program with guidance from a lot of local area scientists and people here at the Foss Waterway Seaport. So they clean the bones and then they try to figure out how to hang it from the ceiling.
So you kind of put it back together like a puzzle.
Yeah, like a really, really big puzzle. Wow. And so when we are up there, you're going to see a lot of evidence of that. But they designed this whole system, how to hang it. And we have our heritage boat shop over here, which I can show you some of the machines that they would have used to drill the holes in the pieces of the whale to get it to be able to hang. And then when they were all finished, they put these big cables on it, and I'll talk a little bit more about the assembly, but they chose to do it with the tail going up like that to make it look more like it was in motion. Yeah. And they all wrote opinion papers about it, and they chose the name Swimming Free for this whale. Yeah. And you can see, well, look at we're going to go up in the man lift and check it out, and I'll talk a little bit more about the assembly and how that all went. But it's really, really amazing, and we are so lucky to have her here.
How long did it take them to do that?
A couple of months. I'll have to check the dates.
Wow.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least a couple of months. Off the top of my head, they started in January, and I think they hung the whale in about April. But we can double check the dates on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now one of our very popular things before COVID was whale yoga. So we have a cellist that comes and does music underneath the whale, and we set up yoga mats, and you can do yoga underneath the whale. So, and then we also use her in a lot of our programs. This is not a program that exists for school kids. This is a very special television program where we're going to ride our man lift up inside the whale.
Well,
These are the kind of
Mr.
things.
Kevin is.
Mr.
Miss
Kevin
Oslin
is.
and I are going to stay down
Stay
here.
safely on the floor. These are the kind of things you come up with when the museum's closed for a year and a half. I know.
Let's go inside the
Let's go up here. Come on, Mr. Kevin. Let's go. Yay. Yay. Oh, before we go, I have a surprise in here.
Oh, our surprise. Yeah.
Who wants it?
I do. Is it going to bite me?
Maybe.
Okay.
Boy, that looks like an arm.
It is. Oh, hello. So nice to meet you.
We can shake hands.
We
because
can
it's
shake
not my
hands.
hand. This is human.
It's yes.
Is it a replica or is it?
What would you like it to be?
Whatever it really is.
Whatever it
It's a
really
replica.
is.
It's a replica. It's not a real arm. I know. The kids, people get very concerned. Why do you have that? This is a real whale, but that is not a human arm.
No, not a human arm, but very cool.
So if you want to step back a little bit with your human arm underneath the whale, I think you might be able to notice some similarities.
I noticed that last time when we came in, and I was shocked.
Right.
I had
So what
no
do we
idea
notice?
that it looks like the flipper is more like an arm and a hand.
Right. So if you look really closely, you can see the writing. And those are actually the permit numbers. We have a lot of permits.
So there's a permit for each individual bone. Is that right?
Yep.
And why is that, Julia?
Well, because whales are covered by the Endangered Species Act. So they're very tightly controlled. For example, if I was going to do a program in Brazil, would not be able to bring my whale with me without a lot of permits. You cannot, the Endangered Species Act and something called CITES controls how we move around these rare animals. So each of these bones have a permit number.
We have another question. I have another question. So,
Oh, Mr. Kevin.
Can you plaster cast these bones, and have you done so?
You absolutely could. I have not personally done so, but if you want to, we can, you're welcome to. You want to make another whale? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was just saying that if you did a plaster cast, then you wouldn't be dealing with real bone, but you could still have something for illustration.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay,
But what
cool.
will we do with the whale then?
You'd just hang out.
Just hang out. She
would just hang out.
So here you can see the growth plates. Right here, we actually need to be a little higher. You probably just put the. So they had to figure out, and there's video of this. There's 2 plates, one on each side of each vertebra, and they weren't attached. So that's big
how they knew it was
puzzle
a young whale.
that they had to figure out. Right.
Right.
That's because it's a young whale, and you'll be very interested in these right here. Can anybody guess what those are?
I have an idea, but I'll wait and let some people guess. Miss Oslam, what do you think those are?
I think those are the ear bones.
Correct.
Yep.
Now, so
Did you have
these
the
are the
same thinking?
size of the ear bones on this yearling humpback. A little bit later, if you look down over here, there's another surprise. That's a full-size fin whale skull. Also has ear bones.
Oh wow, we'll have to compare the size.
They're a little bit bigger. Yeah. So this,
Could you put
yeah.
your fist up there for the size comparison?
I have
Okay.
a pretty big fist.
Nice.
Okay.
All right.
So what do you think these pieces are here? This is the head, right? And the ear bones.
That must be the jaw.
That is totally the jawbone. And we've been talking about this a lot, hanging right here. This is the baleen. It's actually very rare to have a whale skeleton that still has the baleen attached. It's very tricky to attach that and keep it nice. So this is, you can really see how a whale eats. Okay, so here's what happens. So here's our big jaw. Got the baleen hanging off the bottom. So the whale swims along through the water, and this is just filling up with water and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Then, when there's enough water in there, and what's in water? In the ocean?
All sorts of creatures.
All sorts of creatures, right? To us, it just looks like water. But we've got plankton and krill and fish and really whatever else ends up in there. So what happens is the jawbone, and there's a nice picture of this right down there that you guys can show. So the baleen is hanging down, and it acts like a strainer, like a spaghetti strainer. Have you guys ever made spaghetti?
Yes.
So you boil the water, you put the pasta in, but you don't want to eat all the water with the pasta. Well, the whale doesn't either. That's like way too much water. So what the whale does is the jawbone closes up, and they have this really powerful tongue. It squeezes out the water. And if I wasn't wearing a mask, I could squirt water out at you just to demonstrate. So just pretend I'm doing that. And then after all the water is squeezed out, it comes out through the baleen, and all the animals get caught in the baleen, just like in your spaghetti strainer. When you pour out the water through the spaghetti strainer, the pasta is left, and that's what you eat. So I like to think of the baleen as just a big spaghetti strainer. So after they squeeze all the water out, so first the mouth opens, water comes in, jaw closes, tongue pushes the water up, out through the strainer, and then whoop, they swallow. Wow. That's how they eat. Not quite the same as toothed whales, right? Which have a totally different feeding strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That must be how they're able to get enough food to fill themselves.
Right. Well, they have to eat pretty much all the time.
All day.
Yeah. Well, depending on which whale it is. So you know what's so crazy about humpback whales? Humpback whales are migratory. And around here, right? So they have their babies down in Mexico. Then they go up to Alaska to eat. That's where the water is thick and dark and full of life, right? Cold water holds more food. So then once they get really, really full, they go back down to Mexico to have their babies. And when they're down there having their babies, they pretty much don't eat that entire time. Because clear water doesn't have a lot of food in it. So they're pretty skinny by the time they start heading back north again. And as the water gets colder, you'll see them off the coast diving and feeding, just having a great old time.
Maybe that's why they stop off here in the Puget
Yeah,
Sound.
this is like their stopover. Or it's, yeah. Could be that some whales are just going to give up on Mexico.
It reminds me a lot of, we learned
Or
about
Alaska.
coho salmon, and when they migrate, they stop eating before they go back into the freshwater stream.
Right. Yeah. They're not like us. 3
Interesting
meals a day.
connection, Miss Oslin.
Yeah, very good. All right, so you can see these are the rib bones here, right? Oh, see the whale's moving. It's very scary. These are the rib bones of the whale here. And then we have the vertebra like we talked about. And what they did is they actually drilled a hole right in the center of each of the vertebrae so that they could run this big, long steel pole down it. And that's the backbone of how this whale is hung. And I have some great pictures of that happening that I'll send to you. Very cool. That's a great question. What happened to the tail?
It's not made of bone, so it disintegrated.
Yeah.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Cartilage. Yeah.
That's the thing that's made of
Right.
cartilage.
Oh, we were talking about commensalism, mutualisms, right? Yes?
We haven't learned those words
Oh,
yet.
okay. So whales are a pretty big thing in the ocean, which means they can become the home for a lot of other animals. And something really neat about the way they articulated this whale is those knobby looking things sticking out from the finger there, right? You know what that is, Mr. Kevin?
I do not.
I do.
Those are barnacles.
That's right. Those are big, gigantic barnacles hitching a ride on this whale. And of course, after they buried it, barnacles are, pretty calcified, so those were still left over. So to illustrate where they would have been, they put a few there on the front leading edge of the flipper. It's awesome for the barnacle, right? Because barnacles are what's called a sessile, a creature that doesn't move around. Usually they're just anchored and that's it. But boy, oh boy, if you were lucky enough to attach yourself to a whale that's going to swim around in the most plankton-rich food environment, you're going to grow pretty big.
Yeah.
You're going to have a good life.
So that's why you always see barnacles encrusting these whales.
Mm-hmm.
They're just hanging. And does the barnacle give anything back for this?
I
circuit?
don't believe that. So I
circus?
don't believe that it also really hurts them very much. But you do see whales. I know we see the orca a lot, right? Rubbing on the bottom and doing things, and that's to prevent barnacles and
Yeah,
other
you don't
types
see
of
them on
growth.
orcas, do you?
No, yeah, they're not. They're more preeny. They're not into it. Oh, we're down. We have survived the journey into the center of the whale.
We're back on solid ground after being inside the yearling humpback whale. And now Kayla is going to tell us about the fin whale skull.
Yep.
And I don't think that's it.
This is not it. This is a seal skull, or as some of you may know, the pups of the sea. And it unfortunately died due to a bullet wound, which we actually have. But you can see they have these really sharp canine teeth that maybe you
look like your dog's mouth, right? And then we have the nasal cavity and the eye sockets. And just to compare the eye sockets with something that you can see, this is our fin whale skull. And right there, she's showing you that is the eye socket.
Huge.
That's huge.
Down in there.
So we are ultra distanced. This is 17 feet long. And in comparison, the yearling humpback that we were looking at was only just over 22 feet. So this entire fin whale skull is almost larger than that entire yearling humpback whale.
It's incredible.
That's pretty wild, huh? All right, so I know that we were talking about ears and echolocation, and we were comparing Julia's fist size, right, to the ear bone. So we're going to go take a look at the ear bone in our fin whale. So we're going to have to get down, and we'll show you that they're right under here. It's about the size of my fist. So in comparison to that yearling humpback and this fin whale, the ear bones kind of look like the same size to me, which is pretty wild in my opinion. So this entire skull, as we said, was 17 feet long, and at the widest point is about 6 feet wide, and it weighs 1,000 pounds. That's massive.
So this skull weighs the same as that entire yearling skeleton.
Yep.
Can you tell us more about where this skull came from?
So it was found on a beach. It actually got hit by a ship, and so it had to be beached on a private beach so that it could naturally decay. And then, after a few years of it being buried by the sand, a group of Boy Scouts actually went and uncovered it. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. And was it fully intact?
It was not, no.
Okay. What? So the skull was there,
Yes,
and do you know which part of the body wasn't there?
I don't know.
There's pictures.
Oh
We'll look at
yeah,
the
well we
pictures.
can go look at some, we can go look at some pictures.
Exhibit.
Yeah.
We don't have to memorize all the information, and that's okay.
So, yep, Boy Scout troop. In 2013, the whale was hit, and in 2015, I believe they uncovered it.
That's when it was hit, right over there to your left.
And then it took a crane, trailers, and a lot of people. And you can see they bring it in to right where we are right now and carefully.
I love the expression on their faces.
I
It's
know.
like,
Yeah, why would it?
"Oh,
Where
look
was
at
our
this."
shocked.
expression? You had that same thing in your
I know.
hand. And that's what it looked like when it was found.
So how does this happen? How does a whale this big get hit by a boat?
So whales actually don't respond very well to oncoming vessel traffic. A lot of it has to do with noise pollution, because as we learned, echolocation is how they communicate. And if there's lots of noise underwater, it's really hard to hear, right? If you've ever been to a concert or, some kind of musical event and there's lots of noise, it's really hard to hear even the person standing next to you, right? So it'd be really hard for them to communicate with one another to get out of the way. And so sometimes they don't even know that they're coming, or they just don't respond. So a lot of the times it's up to us to move our vessels around where they're coming to. So
Could we also minimize our noise pollution?
yes, there's a lot of activity. The rudders, things that move around to get our boats going, that creates a lot of noise. We also, here in the Salish Sea, live near the naval base, and they do a lot of experiments. But it's hard. We need our naval base. It's very important to us and our safety, but it's harmful to our whale population.
I do know there's laws about how close one vessel, if you see that there's evidence of whales, there's laws about how far you need to stay away. So if you're ever in the water and you see a whale, the best thing to do is to stop moving. Just
Yep.
hang out, till they pass, watch them, enjoy them,
Yeah.
and let them go by, and then continue moving. That way you don't harm them.
Yep, that is spot on, correct, and a great suggestion.
Wow. Thank you, Kayla,
Yeah,
so
of
much
course.
for teaching
Thank
us
you,
about
everybody.
this fin whale. Okay, Tacoma. Now it's time for our affirmation, the time of day when we get to say positive things about ourselves and remind ourselves what it is that we're capable of. Mrs. Wally had a really good idea.
I can protect my environment, because if people would have been more careful, they could have protected this whale.
Excellent job. Let's all take a deep breath together and say our affirmation. I can protect my environment. Excellent job today, Tacoma. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we also hope you take advantage and come on down and join Miss Julia and Miss Kayla at the Foss Waterway Seaport. Bye.
Hi kids, welcome to Food Fight. Now, I think we can all agree that ice cream is pretty delicious, but if you eat too much ice cream, it's not very healthy for your body. You know what is healthy? Fruit. In this exercise video, we will be working on building our cardiorespiratory endurance, which is our heart and our lungs. We're gonna try to avoid all the ice cream obstacles, and we're gonna try to grab as much fruit as we can. Make it to the end and grab the star fruit. Have fun! Food fight! Let's go! Food fight! right, come on! Food fight! All right, kids, in the final level, you need to grab as much fresh fruit as you can, dodge the mini ice cream trucks, dodge the ice cream, and make it to the star fruit. Good luck! Food fight! Nice job, everyone.